What makes someone worth listening to? Not just someone who can get our attention, but someone whose ideas people can genuinely trust. This has become one of the most relevant questions in this age where artificial intelligence is making producing content much easier than ever before. So I sat down with Tomas Loucky, a man who has spent years interviewing leading LinkedIn creators on what separates actual genuine visibility from genuine influence. We went way beyond algorithms and posting tactics. We spoke about AI generated content, personal branding, credibility, what actually converts attention into trust in this AI dominated age. And these are the kind of conversations we want to be having in the Executive Intelligence Conversation Briefs. Next up, I'm going to be sitting down with Tomas Loucky and we're going to be diving right in. I am Vwakpor Efuetanu and I'm going to see you right there.
It's almost nice to meet you. My name is and I've been looking forward to this actually because I didn't want this to feel like one of those interviews or a list of questions that we're going to just ask, but to just have a genuine conversation. So I'm speaking to you from Africa, even though we do work across Africa, Europe, and America. And when Blessing told me about you, I said, okay, this is our go-to guy for this conversation. And I'm really, 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 really appreciative of this conversation. So before we begin, I know you spend quite a lot of time talking to creators, people, building credibility, consistency across different platforms. And I really want to start with your story. Okay, I really want to know, about how you've been able to manage this, balance it, and professional trust. Before we then get into the whole AI conversation and what to do.
So, firstly, I want to say thank you for your kind words. It's great to meet you as well, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And with my story, I'm primarily a podcaster and content creator. I focus on LinkedIn. The story or the journey I started a few years ago. I'm honestly not sure where it was. It's been maybe like 3 or 4 years. But as other people in the beginning, LinkedIn for me was just the platform that you go once in a while to update if there is any kind of career-related updates. But definitely, I did not see it as kind of a career or even place for the creators to build your brand, etc. But over time, as I kept showing up, I started meeting new people, enjoying the platform, and I started seeing the potential. And it somehow clicked that I felt like LinkedIn is actually more than, just online resume or something like that. I started my podcast because there were actually quite a few reasons why I started. It wasn't like one moment that made me, okay, I need to start a podcast. But I've been a big fan of podcasting. I've always listened to many. I really enjoyed it. And I felt like I had access to people from creative industries. So that was like one of the reasons. Then I also saw casting as kind of step out of your comfort zone because let's be honest, now you actually do it by yourself, which well done too. But you know what it's like, you need to put yourself in front of the camera, then it goes online and people, I don't know, might be judging you. But it's just a step out of the comfort zone. So I wanted to try that. And also, I know it's going to sound maybe a bit cheesy, but I wanted to make some kind of impact because if it helps even one person, it's a really nice feeling. And if your story or the stories of other people actually inspire someone, it's really nice. So then I somehow decided to start a podcast. And as I said, LinkedIn was just one of the platforms where I was sharing the content. And over time, I kept showing up, I kept meeting people, and I saw that there are actually amazing community with people with great stories. And I think it was somewhere around episode 60, 70, somewhere around that, I actually thought, wow, actually, why don't I focus on LinkedIn? And before, my podcast was in content more about creative industries, but then I thought, oh, wow, it's actually a good niche. And that's when I decided to focus on LinkedIn and speak with the content creators. Now, I think I'm somewhere around episodes 160, 170. I enjoy it. As you said before, how do I manage it? Not going to lie that it's not always easy. I'm sure that you know what it is like to keep showing up, whether you feel like it or not. But I always try to remind myself that you need to enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, if you have fun, if there is something to be excited about, it makes it easier. So that is, in a nutshell, I could be talking for much longer, but if there's anything specific you'd like me to dive into.
Yeah, so here in Africa, a lot of founders, a lot of people trying to build trust and credibility, especially across multiple platforms like speak about. Talk about consistency a lot, how consistency is the thread of the game. And it's a word that is bandied around actually, but I really want to know from your perspective, what does consistency really mean for you? Because you mentioned a little bit of it, just now, and showing up every day and how it can be. So what is there like this repeatable formula?
I think this consistency is key. I think that sometimes we forget the difference between consistent and frequent. Consistency, but this is so I think you see people post every day and to do that as well. But don't forget that we all have different backgrounds, conditions, and goals. So some of you don't know what are their goals compared to goals. So I think that people just shouldn't compare themselves to others. I know it's easy to say, but it's not always easy to do. But then it comes down to quality over quantity. It's really better to post 3 posts per week than just post every day for the sake of posting it. Not only it's not going to work, but it might lead to burnout and it may do more harm than good. So I would really recommend to people focus on, yes, be consistent, but make it clear that consistency and frequency are different things. So you don't have to post like every day.
Yeah, and that really morphs into one of the concerns I was having, because that's how you become so consistent and you become very strong. So is it that someone can become extremely visible without becoming someone that you can trust judgment, for example? Do you see that distinction? And then if you do, what actually turns that attention that comes from consistency into trust?
Just if I understand the question correctly, do you mean like that there may be someone visible, but at the same time they may not be trusted?
Yes. How do we combat? How do you see that switch taking place, especially from attention to trust?
That is a good question, because I think there are a lot of creators and a lot of profiles that have big numbers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can be trusted, or that, I don't say they don't have quality content, but you see high numbers, but you don't know what's the reason behind it. I don't want to say like that it has to be the case, but sometimes, you've got, for example, engagement posts where some people post their content just for the sake of getting likes or getting impressions. You never know what's the whole story. Or, great example, sometimes you have profiles with content and you look at it and it has a lot of engagement and maybe even some comments. But then when you look at the comments, it's like these generic comments, usually probably AI, that doesn't tell you anything. So then, is it really quality, or is it just somehow, I don't know, boosted for the sake of getting high numbers? So I think that, yes, definitely, if you have obviously high following, high impressions and engagement, it helps with that first impression. Let's be honest, we all like it and it really helps. But at the same time, it doesn't always mean that the person is worth following or the person knows what they are doing. And also, some people maybe chase or try to follow the latest algorithm hacks or tips and this and that, and then they might use some tactics, or not necessarily tactics, but some just smart moves to help them with the algorithm. So I think you never know. I agree, or I think that it helps with that first impression, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is really worth following or maybe knows what they are doing.
Yeah, because really, I was going to bring this into the subset of the fact that I'm trying to run a very serious institution here in Africa, for example. Talking of CEOs, chief officers, CHROs, very big firms for oil and gas, AI and what have you. And sometimes, using LinkedIn, creators. I mean, we understand why creators need LinkedIn. I mean, it's extremely important. But a CEO, for example, in context, it's a little bit elevated. Someone building, an organization that requires a lot of data and a lot of readiness. So I was thinking, could we not damage CEOs, maybe institutional credibility by trying so hard to be a creator? I was really looking at that gap, and I really wanted you to comment on that. What's the line between executive thought leadership and executive self-promotion, something like that?
I think that's a good question. question. I would say that it can definitely happen, but at the same time, if approached in the right way, it doesn't have to happen. I think that some people still may have this mindset of LinkedIn as corporate platform. Like I said before, that I saw it as online TV where you go to update your profile once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think that if there are obviously there are still people who think of LinkedIn this way, I think it really helps to look at CEOs of some large companies. I don't know, for example, CEO of Google.
Yeah.
I don't know what else, or any high profile people.
Yeah.
I think it clearly tells you how important it is to build your brand. So that will be like my first answer. And secondly, as you said, if it can actually damage someone's reputation or profile, I think it definitely can, because if you approach it in the wrong way, maybe you don't know what's your goal on the platform, maybe you don't want to work with anyone, you want to do it on your own, but then you may not have experience, don't know what to post. I think it's always worth it, whether it's hiring in person or anyone who wants to build their brand. Firstly, know what are your goals on the platform, and secondly, have some kind of plan, some kind of strategy, because if you start posting and I don't know your selfies or your breakfast like on Instagram or something, then obviously it's probably going to damage your brand. But at the same time, if you know what you're doing, if you maybe have someone's help and you have a strategy, I think it's only a positive thing.
Yeah, and really, and you just hit the nail on the head for me, really, because the goals, the strategy really has to be different from just that of the creator. And this is one reason I want to really have this conversation at this time, because I was thinking, in the space I work in, artificial intelligence, we see a lot of use cases where AI has radically lowered the cost of producing content. Someone can generate 30 posts, articles, images, videos, comments, and all of this can be theoretically assisted, by AI. So, if artificial intelligence is doing this, and everyone looks like a creator right now, does creation itself become less valuable? How do you measure the value of creation? What are your thoughts there?
I think that I see it on LinkedIn as well, and I think that I don't know why some people do it. Maybe they don't know, maybe they want to save money, or maybe they think that they can do it on their own. But when I see like this obvious AI content, again, I'm not against AI, I use it as well, but obviously there is a line between AI helping you and AI replacing you. So when I see like image or post that you just clearly see that it's copy and paste, I think it may do more harm than good. I think that I would like to say that I know why, but I think that it really differs. If someone maybe they don't have a budget, they need to do it quickly, they think it actually looks good. So I would just recommend to people, really don't be afraid to ask someone for help, whether it's there are so many amazing people on LinkedIn, anyone for advice, maybe how to create content, or even collaborate with someone. Because it's investment in the beginning, but I believe that it really pays off. Not only that the person knows what to do, how to do it, but you also have some kind of guidance straight from the start. And the worst thing I think is that like if you damage your brand in the beginning, such as maybe low quality content that doesn't have anything to do with your focus, I think that it might be actually hard later on to improve that reputation if people remember you, if they know you for that. So I think it's really helpful just work with someone at the start. There's nothing wrong with that.
Indeed, we do see that even at an institutional level too, because technology can increase speed of maybe producing outputs and decisions and all of that. But at the end of the day, AI actually cannot make human judgment less valuable, because the whole human side of doing things, especially with the whole hallucinations that come with artificial intelligence, AI aims a lot and all that. So that's one gap that really I feel more people should get to know about and even explore, especially I call it HI, human intelligence, using human intelligence, make the whole output better. So I was going to ask, is there, because I've been thinking a lot too around this, is there any hidden psychological cost of constantly being visible online? Is there? Yeah.
I think there can be, but I would say it maybe depends on the context. Because understandably, if it's someone who works maybe in some kind of industry that may be more protective or may have, I don't want to say work in something secretive, but of course they're like jobs that you are not allowed to share everything. So I think in such situations then it makes sense. But besides that, I think obviously if you share content that isn't appropriate to share online, it definitely might have negative consequences, but then it's not really LinkedIn. I think it's any platform. And I think that if you don't do like anything against common sense, obviously to offend anyone online or send spammy DMs or anything like that, I don't really think there are like any negatives because I know it sounds obvious, but follow common sense, try to follow quality over quantity, have some kind of strategy, and of course know the boundaries about your work, about your job. And besides that, I honestly don't really think so. I'm curious, actually, what do you think about this?
Well, actually, if you look at it very well for me, as a founder trying to build an institution, I've been thinking about, okay, when does the whole content building move from just yourself to the institution itself? Where does that switch happen? And it has been a dilemma for me actually because sometimes I have founders like me, we get settled and everybody has to, okay, you're practically the face of the company. You have to put out yourself, put out a lot of content. So that switch for me, is it that everyone is going to be maybe like a media company? Is it that the creators of the next decade are going to be media companies, communities? So that's where my mind is. And I was even going to ask you as well. Do you think that the most successful creators of the next decade are actually going to become like media companies, educational businesses and institutions, something in that gap?
I think it's obviously a bit of predicting, but I would say probably yes. I think you can already see it with some big, whether it's creators or people online. It can be like podcasters, YouTubers, or even like online entrepreneurs who build businesses. And sometimes it feels like that you don't necessarily know their business, but you know the person. For example, I'm pretty sure that everyone knows, let's say, Alex Hormozy. But I think if you ask those people if they know actually what business or businesses he's built, I assume that much less people would know, but everyone knows his name. So I think that is becoming more and more important and bigger. Obviously, that's a good question. What is it going to be like in the future with AI? But at the same time, I would say that maybe because of the AI, you can see obviously content, I don't know whether it's YouTube, Instagram, even LinkedIn AI content that is kind of soulless because you don't know who's behind it. Anyone can create it and it can be faceless. Exactly. And I think it actually makes stand out those personal brands because you know that one person and it's not, I don't know, anyone hiding behind this random profile. So I think actually thanks to AI, it may help to build these personal brands and stand out for those people that actually are behind the business.
There are a lot of funding options outside of visibility. And this is one of the reasons why, I feel this conversation is so necessary. Even for founders like myself, building stuff out of Africa, around the world. So Thomas, I was going to give you a few things. I just want to answer a question that comes to mind, like I talked about some points on what comes to your mind first. So in terms of freedom, so if I to say being viral or being valuable, what would you?
For me, it's definitely valuable.
Really feel by your flow of thought and conversation already?
I want to say that those are great questions. Of course, it's a bit tough to answer just with one word answer because I think sometimes some context is helpful, but it's good that actually it makes you think about which one. So I like those.
Yes. Because I also didn't want to overthink them. I just wanted to know, what would be your first response to someone? Okay, so I'd love to finish different things, Thomas. This has been such a great conversation, but I was thinking about this. I was talking to the guys in the studio about this recently. imagine, for example, there's a 24-year-old watching us somewhere in Lagos, Nairobi, New York, or, London. You know, they are brilliant, doing very well, trying to do something. Nobody knows them, they have something linked which contribute. And every time they open LinkedIn, they see established creators like yourself, West Fame, like other people. Sometimes they feel, oh, it's too late. The seems to have moved on. What would you say to such people? What would you say to such person?
I would honestly say that I felt the same when I started on LinkedIn, which was a few years ago, as we discussed in the beginning. I remember when I started and I saw other people that had just a few thousand, and I thought, is it actually worth it? Am I ever going to get there? And now, a few years after, I just continued. And I think it's a great example that, again, don't compare yourself to others. You don't know how long they've been there, what's their context, conditions, etc. And also, I would bet that, or I know that some of those people that I saw when I started that were way ahead of me, they maybe are not on the platform anymore at all. So trust me, it's never too late to start. Even if you start today, you will be happy next year that you started. And if you don't start next year, you will regret that you haven't started when you thought about it a year ago. So really look at example of me or many other people that when we started, we had the same thoughts. And really, it's never late to start.
And really, I think because I was going to ask a follow-up final question to that is, I think you've answered it a little bit, which is, what do you know today that you wish you understood 10 years earlier?
Give me just a second. I will think about it. It's not probably what I wish I knew, but maybe I didn't realize that. Is that since I spoke with quite a few people on my podcast that I can safely say that they are successful, they are way ahead of me, whether in their careers, followings, personal brand. I feel like that when we start or when we are maybe not that successful, we feel like that those people that are way ahead of us, that they are somehow special or unique, like stars, like when you see someone famous. But the reality behind the scenes is that those people are still people like you are, like I am. Of course, they worked hard, they may be talented or something else, but still they are humans. And I think it really helps you to remind this, because then pretty much anything is possible. Obviously, if it's realistic, but if you work hard, if you are patient, consistent, maybe a bit talented, you can really achieve anything. So I think it's very helpful because it helps you to be more grounded. Also, it's a bit of motivation because you know that those people usually started from nothing and they still made it. So I think this would be like something that I wish I actually realized or paid attention to earlier.
Oh, wow, that's such a beautiful place to end this, Thomas. I want to say thank you really for this. It's not only just earning people for the work you're doing, documenting stories, behind people, that sometimes you can only see via screen. Sometimes we never get a reason, but their links have become life-changing bits that we're able to use to navigate every day. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Thomas, and I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for the work you're doing. Very grateful. Thank you so much. Conversations in the future.
Thank you. I want to say a big thank you as well. You've been an amazing host. You had great questions. Really enjoyed it, and it was also great to meet you. And well done on this podcast. I hope you continue, you stay with that, and it will be successful. So thank you very much.
So I just finished my conversation with Tomas Loucky, and one thing stood out. As producing content becomes easier and cheaper, credibility becomes more valuable. It's true. In artificial intelligence, people are going to be able to produce more videos, have more content, produce more information. But at the same time, technology does not automatically transmit judgment. There's a greater need for people that can use this technology responsibly, scale it, and also have the right judgment when deploying such technology. I believe strongly that this is one of the most defining opportunities of the artificial intelligence era, where it is about credibility, experience, trust of the user that deploys AI systems in organizations and institutions. My full conversation with Tomas Loucky is now available. And this is not just about artificial intelligence, it's also about the future of credibility for organizations and institutions. My name is Vwakpor Efuetanu, and this is the Executive Intelligence Conversation.